Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of Real Life Matters. Of course, I'm your host, DBoss, here. And please support the artists that come on and everybody who is actually coming in, like their films, buy their music, support them. Everybody needs all the support they can get. But today I have a legendary artist that's coming on. He's a producer, a jazzist, a pianist, a producer. Oh my gosh, he's doing so many things. And I am so honored to introduce to you the legendary Eddie Bullen.
Hey, oh, so good to see you.
How are you doing?
Good, man. Good,
It's
good.
good to see you. It's good to see you. It's good to be here. So Eddie Bullen, my gosh, man, you're just everywhere. Everybody's just seeing it everywhere recently, all over the place. So can you tell everybody where you come from and what's your background?
Well, I'm from a small island called Grenada. Yeah, and that's right on the equator in the Caribbean. And
Okay.
I moved to Canada about 40 years ago. And I sort of spent my formative years in the Caribbean. Grew up with my dad, who had a music store. So music was in my life from the time I can remember. My dad was a musician. He toured. He had a band which was signed to Decca, and he used to, record a lot of songs, a lot of calypso songs back in the day.
Oh, so you
So
did a lot of calypsos.
yeah, I mean they played jazz as well too. So, but growing up in the being a person in the Caribbean, they played calypso, but they
Okay.
they did a lot of jazz stuff as well too. So I mean, I grew up in a house where jazz was played all the time. My dad loved it. He played it. We had a music store. We sold all the instruments. We were the agents for Yamaha, Steinway, um, all the major labels we were agents for. And so I grew up in that environment. And what will happen is people would, like, musicians would visit the island, and the first place they'd come is to my dad's store. And then we'd have a jam session, and then there's like a blocko right on my dad's store. So I mean, as a kid, I'm looking at this and I just looking at these musicians. I'm like, yo, I gotta do this one of these days. I want to be a musician. I want to perform. So, I mean, it was preordained. And I remember when I was around 16, 17 years old, I decided to put on a jazz concert. I rented the venue. It was an auditorium at a school.
It
I
was here
rented
in Canada or was it back
No,
home?
this is in Grenada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started putting on jazz concerts, jazz festivals. And I was like 16, 17 years old, man. I had my friends, I rehearsed them. And yeah, just put on these jazz festivals. I remember the first one that I did, nobody bought any tickets because they didn't know what the hell I was doing. And there was a cinema which was in the bottom of the entrance to the auditorium, and the cinema over exactly at the same time I started, and they heard the music. Place was rammed. I sold all my tickets, made my money, and that's kind of how I started. Just putting on shows. So and that continued over the years. I immigrated to Canada. My mom lived here. I came. My mom sponsored me. I came to Canada, and I was on the road. The second week I was in Canada, I was on the road with a rock and roll group
What?
playing.
You
Well,
didn't you
it's
didn't
a
waste
gig,
no
right?
time. You didn't waste any time.
No, man. I
Uh,
you know I bought my equipment and I was on the road, man. It was a gig. It was paying, and I was on the road playing
so
rock
who
and
taught you
roll.
to play the instruments? Your dad or your did you go
Yeah,
to
well,
lessons?
my dad um, was he sent me for piano lessons, so I went for piano lessons. And there was a couple of people. There was an American woman who was a jazz pianist, so I'd go to her for my kind of learning my jazz, and then I had another gentleman who taught me a lot of classical stuff, which was kind of boring because I want to play a whole bunch of modern stuff. So anyway, I,
Right.
I learned both of them, and I was one of the points of sale. Somebody would come in to buy a piano, And my dad, once he gets paid for the piano, $3,000-4,000, he'd say, "Son, go play the piano, demonstrate the piano for the people." So now I have to go play. So,
Wow.
right.
No
so,
pressure. No pressure.
so yeah, man. Those are some of my days that I enjoy, and I loved it. I mean, a friend of mine, one of the things that was really instrumental for me is that a friend of mine who relocated from the US to Grenada came with like stacks of albums. So he had all the, contemporary jazz albums, George Benson, uh,
Wow. I like him
right,
too.
right, all those guys. And I used to just be engulfed in those records. Like he just say, "Listen, take whatever records you need." And I have like 20 albums, and I'm just going through, Grover Washington, Bob James, Spyro Gyra. I mean, just going through all those things. So that's the backdrop to my life. For example, I mean, one of the guys that I liked was a guy called narrator Michael Walden, who
Yeah.
became the producer for Whitney Houston. Right? He was a jazz guy. He's a jazz drummer. So
Wow.
right? So he produced Mariah, Whitney, um, Aretha Franklin. Like, oh, that's who those guys are. You know what I mean? Um, and I have always liked producing. I mean, I'm a piano player, but I love producing. I just listen and just try and figure out what those producers would do to create new sounds, and that was one of my things that I love. So my dad used to get real pissed off at me because I'd be up all hours of the night with my headphones on and just listening, and he thinks I'm in bed, and he'll get up and he'll, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm listening to this stuff, and he'd freak out.
You're
Boy,
still up.
get you put in the room, go to bed. You have to go to school in the morning. So
Mm.
anyway, that's my formative years of playing and just having some kind of foundation. And I have to, my dad was like my major influence, and he loved it. And my brother also played, so we used to play in the hotels.
Wow. You see,
As
so
kids.
everybody in your family plays instruments
Yeah, we
mostly?
had to play music. Yeah, oh yeah,
Wow.
we had to play. And I mean, I definitely really took it to the extreme. So anyway, and I mean, my sons play, right? Both my sons. I think it's a legacy situation. My dad gave it to me, and I decided
Because after generation, it's just
yeah,
going through each generation, and
yeah.
it's in your blood then. So, because for you, so what do you play piano? You play a lot of different instruments. So, what's your favorite instrument?
No, I don't play a lot. I just play piano.
Just
My
piano.
my son is the one that plays every instrument in the freaking world.
Oh,
He plays everything.
I
So
just interviewed somebody that plays every single instrument. Oh, that was Aziska Alize.
yeah,
He plays every instrument too. So
yeah.
piano. So you played baby grand. You play all the different
Yeah, well,
types of piano.
anything that's a keyboard. I mean, I love synthesizers. I I
Okay.
I mean that was my thing when electronic keyboards came in. That was what I gravitated to. The first synthesizer I remember. It's 1973, 74. I mean, I'm losing my mind. And
Wow.
so yeah, so I that's kind of where I started, and I continued with that. Like on my records you could hear sometimes I play synthesizer stuff, but I mean I play a lot of piano, but and as a producer, that's really what we use. We use
Okay.
all electronic sounds. And that
Okay.
started in the 70s.
Well,
So
you said that your jazz has a little bit of a Caribbean kind of flair to
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, I mean I play what we call contemporary jazz or smooth jazz.
Ooh, okay.
You have to fit into a format. However, because I'm from the Caribbean, I am always putting some kind of Caribbean flavor to it. It
Okay.
always has some kind of a little, and it's always little calypso influences, and reggae influences. So I have albums that I have done um, that has calypso influences, like strong calypso influences. And I have a couple of albums that I've done where it's reggae. I played a tribute to Monty Williams and Jackie Mitu, right?
Okay.
Those are the guys who did a lot of organ stuff. So I have an album that I did with a friend of mine by the name of Kingsley Etienne. And
Okay.
Kingsley is also a piano player. So we did this album paying tribute to the guys, the Caribbean guys who kind of made the organ a part of Caribbean music. So I'm always paying homage to a lot of those things. You know what I mean?
So who have you worked with in the industry, and somebody that you would like to work with?
Um, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different people. Um, I mean, you know, I've worked with Liberty Silver. I've produced
Mm-hmm.
several things for her. I worked with Melba Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with Dee Dee Bridgewater, who's a great jazz singer. Um, that's on the jazz side. On the funk side, I did a record with a lady by the name of Colette Easy. That's a total funk album. Um,
Mm.
I've done a lot of work with a lot of calypso artists like Marshall Montano, and Slim Douglas. Like he wrote the Who Let Dogs Out. David Rudder, I produced stuff for David Rudder on the and several different other
And you
people.
work with Maestro?
Yeah, I did some work, some hip hop. I worked with on his record Black Tie Affair. I did that record.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, on the reggae side, I done stuff for Leroy Sibbles, Toots, Hubert, um, and lots of remixes. Frankie Paul, Beanie Man, like just that whole bunch of that side. I've done a lot of work with those guys. So
So you
it,
you you put it, you produced the songs, or you worked, or
yeah,
you did something with them?
produce, produce,
Okay.
produce. A lot of those are produced. Toots, I toured with Toots. I
Okay.
two tours with him. Didn't produce anything for Toots, but toured with him. Um, I mean, lots of different artists. Like I mean, I have you see that wall in the back of me. That's some of the CDs that I've produced over the
Ooh,
years.
that's a
You know,
lot there. We got to go through a library.
yeah. I mean, George Banton, Errol Starr, Billy Newton Davis. I mean, there's just so many people. I mean, especially in the Canadian industry, I've really, I mean, they've embraced me, and I must say I am fortunate and lucky to be working with those people. As a young man who came from a very small island with 100,000 people. A lot of, yeah,
And look at you now. And look at you now. And everybody embraces Eddie Bullen. People come to you to produce, compose, put their stuff together. And that's something. A lot of people just don't get people like that just to run up on them like that.
No, no. And I try to do every project that I've done, I try to make sure that it's a well done project, and I try to help the artist in terms of marketing and promotion.
Okay.
I've always, it's not that you've done the record and I closed the door. No, I've done the record, and I sort of shepherd the record to make sure that it gets the best amount of promotion and publicity as possible. Because if
Okay.
that happens, then that artist comes back and does another record, and so on and so on. So a lot of times people, I do a lot of repeat, uh, um, albums, because the first record did well. So
And they
then
like what you did.
yeah, and they like what I did, and then we have a good working relationship. I try not
Right.
to, sometimes you have some producers shut the artist down with their ideas. I try to make sure that I'm transparent, so you don't have the signature on every record that I've done. People
Okay.
don't know, like if they'll hear something and I say, oh yeah, I did that record. Like, what? I thought you were a jazz guy. You know what I mean? So
And you're
here's
getting that a lot, but that's in the game, So,
yeah,
because now we're tearing down the wall to let people know this real life matters, to let people know that, hey, Eddie Bullen is behind a lot of stuff. People, you know, like
yeah,
you work with a lot of new and upcoming artists.
yeah, yeah. There's an artist right now that I just, I have a small record label as well too. So
Oh,
there's a
okay.
yeah, there's artist that I'm working with now. His name is Jeremy Sean Hector,
Okay.
guitar player from Grenada as well, and he's
Oh,
just
that's nice.
right. He's just released an album which just got added to Billboard. So it's starting to climb the charts on Billboard. We have over 80 stations in the U.S. Playing his record. We have several rotations. He's on XM satellite radio.
Okay.
I have another artist that's coming out of Barbados. I try to work with a lot of Caribbean artists. Her name
Well,
is
that's my
Keisha.
family's from Barbados, so
Right. Well, there you go. There you go.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, her name is Keisha Christian, and I have a new
Okay.
album coming out with her. I've worked with Marissa Lindsay from Barbados, Betty Payne. I did a record for her.
So
Um,
you've been down there, of course.
oh yeah, Barbados. I love
Oh,
Barbados. I love
so they
Barbados.
know. So they know you at the airport. So when they, oh, there comes Eddie Bullen. Eddie Bullen's here now.
Yeah, yeah. I got a lot of love from Barbados, and it's always a wonderful thing. I think in the close proximity of the islands, I think you know they've embraced me, and for that I love Barbados.
Well, I like it too, not just because my family's there, but I like it to go there. Everything's just right. The beach, the that, the people.
Oh yeah,
The food.
oh yeah,
Everything's good.
oh yeah,
Of course,
yeah,
the rum, the drinks, and all that. That's all. That's a plus.
oh yeah, oh
And then
yeah,
you always got somewhere to go. I've been there so many times that I haven't done everything there, like the horseback riding. They got the train. They got all kinds of things, and a lot of people film a lot of the videos there. They got artists like Peter Ram. They got big. What's his name? There's a few guys there that are pretty big that do stuff there, and they really put the effort in to make sure they produce, or like how you would, to make sure that is going out properly.
yeah.
And the
Oh,
head office for where it goes into 28 countries, Caribvision, which I'm on, and Bell 5,
right.
their head office is in Barbados.
Wow, that's cool.
So when you go to, a lot of things happen down there in that small, people like to say it's a small little dot.
No, no,
It's a small
Barbados.
little dot, but they got a lot of people and a lot of things going on.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things going on in Barbados.
And any village, and it's nice, it's nice to go down there and you go and produce, and and I like how they do business there. Like if a concert, they have the gospel fest, they have all the different, I think they have jazz, I think they have a jazz thing now, I'm not sure
Yeah, yeah. I
if
mean,
it's
they've had a jazz fest for
before.
years, and I mean, it's pretty,
Yeah.
right? I mean, everybody from Luther to Natalie
Ooh.
Cole, Herbie Hancock,
Did
everybody
you
played.
go? You went? You were on it too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I played that festival actually
Okay.
twice. Hmm.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah,
if the thing is about there is if something doesn't work or the numbers aren't working, they will stop and just give everybody back their which is good. You know what I mean? Like if they
yeah,
find
yeah,
that things not going the way it's supposed to, like
yeah,
some people here will go, oh gosh, we'll just ride and die it out or whatever. No, no. If the thing's not making sense and the things aren't doing what it's supposed to, they will cancel it.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I find that that's being a bigger person to do that than to let something go through and it's not right.
Right,
So,
right.
I've worked with them. So
Yeah.
who would you like to work with, Eddie, that you haven't worked with?
That's
Excluding the up and coming. And I know you worked with Kay Victoria. She was
right.
up here during TIFF and stuff
Yes,
with her
yeah,
album, which was
yeah,
good.
yeah. I did that single for them, and I mean, she
And
sounds great. She
and
sounds.
working with somebody coming from St. Thomas, you
Oh, okay,
know. Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they come from out on that side there. So it's good to because you don't see many artists. You know of them, but some of them really don't say like maybe they're from there. They don't really say so.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Actually, I worked with a guy by the name of Neville Peter from the Virgin Islands. This
okay,
guy's amazing. He's blind, but Jesus, this guy can sing, man. So on my very first album, he did a whole scat on it, which became really popular in Brazil.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, they artists that come out of those islands that sometimes you just they're world class, man. You have nothing on them.
They have
Um,
nothing because they're going for everything. They're bringing their all out. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
they know they got to compete with the Americans. They got to compete with the Canadians. Everybody else. So you got people coming from the Caribbean. They really have to push themselves that 150. That's when you're giving 150 out of the 100.
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, man.
So so tell us who you'd like to work with that you haven't.
Um, that's a good question. Uh, that's a good. You know what? I've never even think of that. I
Some
mean,
big people, anybody,
yeah. For example, like Michael Bublé, I'd like to do some stuff with him.
Okay.
But I mean, he has one of the great producers, which is David Foster.
Hmm.
Um, I was able to do a little work with David in 1996, I think. Yeah. Um, Olita Adams, I did a little thing with her, and I fell in love with her. So I'd like to work with her again. Just to do some more because I kind of like what she's doing. Um, I mean, Justin Bieber is I like Justin. I think you know just people like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
You want to work
yeah,
with Rihanna? I guess she's kind of
yeah,
off the market now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Rihanna. Actually, I was supposed to. There was a thing that happened, and Rihanna was supposed to come and do some recording here, and
Okay.
anyways, I got a call asking me to book a session, and they won't tell me who the artist is, and I had another booking, and I said no, you got to book another day. I said, well, who's the artist? They can't tell me. I was like, well,
Oh,
you
well,
got it right. So
they can't. What if they were told in the beginning? Then you would have said, "Okay, let's."
I would have said okay, and then eventually my friend who recommended me was able to kind of get through to me, and he said, listen, if you got a call, take the session. It's Rihanna. And I was like, they just called me, and I just vetoed it. Right. So by the time I called them back, they got another studio to go in and
Oh
work
well,
away. So
next time.
yeah. Anyway,
Next time.
that's how things happen. That's how things
Well,
happen.
the stuff, different things happen, and a lot of people, because I know a lot of people when I hear of you and your name, it's like people say it's very esteemed. They're very, oh no, we work with Eddie Bullen, like excuse me, yes, and to get that kind of repertoire with people is that means that you're very well respected in your craft.
Yeah. Well, I love what
So
I do, and like
mhm.
and I always try to make sure that the artist gets what they want, and they're very comfortable with, and they're happy with their project. I mean, many times, I have artists here, and you can see them dancing in the studio, and because they love what they get, they're happy, and I try to make sure that it gets the sort of recognition in the media that it should garner, because it helps me as well too. So
Okay.
I like I've just done I'm finishing an album with a group called Koljack, and they did really well in the contemporary jazz, arena as well too. And through COVID, I did a collaboration with Julie Black, um,
Mm.
it's another singer called Danaj, She was in Amsterdam, and Belinda Monroe, who is in the U.S. So it was a and another singer from Bolivia. So we did this whole collage, and we did "That's What Friends Are For," which was really cool
Oh,
to work with those guys. It's wonderful singers. That track is on YouTube as well too. Really, I mean, I enjoyed doing that with all those ladies. So you get a chance to do a lot of those little things, and forge friendships.
and I guess when they come to your studio, it's an experience.
Yeah, and that's what I try to maintain. Is like when once you come into the studio, it's inviting. Like and then a lot of the artists said, when I come here, I feel like it's a home. It's a place where you can create. I mean, I do full recordings. I have two grand pianos, that drum set, amps,
What?
bass amps, guitar amps. So if you want to do live stuff, like I do that all the time. If you want to just do computer stuff, just I like that.
I guess your neighbors don't hear you.
No, no, no. I'm pretty. Our homes are pretty far apart, so
Oh,
they don't. They, they don't hear anything. They just see some cars parked outside.
they don't know what's going on. It's
Yeah, they
the
know. They
lights
know.
on, but no one's home.
Yeah, yeah. No, they know. They know. They know what I do. So they'll be asking me. So who is that?
Ah.
Yeah.
You got the people with their cameras out like this.
Yeah.
Well, you have a couple songs here that we
Yeah.
want to hear. You got Funkalicious.
Yeah. That was from my latest album.
Tell us about that one a little bit.
Well, I mean, the funk is always in my backbone. Like I
Okay.
grew up with the funk. You know what I mean?
Mm, so
When
did
I was
I.
young, yeah. I mean, when you were younger, you go to places and that's what they played. You know what I mean? You go to PWDs in Yorkville and it's funk. You know what I mean? Back in the day, or you go to the Zodiac or the Canary Cottage. Um, so you grew up with that, and I never want to leave that alone. So I did this track that had the drummer Lornell Lewis. I don't know if Lornell's become one of the top drummers in the world, a Canadian boy who's like kind of made it big. He's plays with a group called Snarky Puppy, and
Hmm.
so he played with me for many years, and I wanted to feature. We did this track together, with Andrew Stewart on bass and myself on piano, and we just wild out on this, and I couldn't figure out a name. I just said, listen, this is funky like hell,
What?
so it's delicious, delicious funk. So I call it Funkalicious.
All right. Well, let's hear it.
Okay.
Wow, we hear the funk right there.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Gotta lay the funk down.
That's it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I guess if people want to hear that, they can go and on your, they can download it, or it was on YouTube,
Yeah.
or they can pay for it, or however you do it, people.
Oh
But you
yeah,
heard
yeah,
it
yeah.
on here. Real Life Matters.
Yeah, man.
It's a good. I like it. I really like it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's it has that old school. It reminds me of
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica funk, that kind of
Jamaica funk. That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
it is.
yeah. It has that. Yeah.
Getting
It has
it
that.
into you. You know, you can just
Yeah.
put that right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I like my old school. So
Oh
tell
yeah,
us
man.
about this Esplanado.
Yeah, Esplanado again. This has a bit of a Caribbean vibe to it. Um, it's like a
Spanish?
yeah. It has a like the Caribbean has we get influence from Venezuela, um, and Brazil. So it has a sort of Brazilian um, sort of twist to it. I spent a little time in Brazil. I spent like about 6 weeks in Brazil
Wow.
working. So I, you sort of kind of catch a vibe from it. And there are a lot of Brazilian, like the samba is very reminiscent of. You can feel some calypsos in the samba. You could feel that Afro Caribbean um, vibe in
So I'll
Esplanado.
make you get up and you want to do some merengue or something.
Yeah, it's funky. It's funky though, but
Well,
it
it's
has that.
funky.
Yeah, it's funky, but it has that vibe to it. And I have Michelle Wright. She's doing some singing on it. There's some scatting on it, which it's it has that flavor. So it reminds me a bit of a Brazilian pianist called Tanya Maria. So she was a big
Okay.
influence on a lot of the stuff that I've done. So I kind of it has that vibe.
All
So
right. Well, let's hear this one now.
Esplanado.
People, you're only getting to hear a sample of the music. If you want to get the album, you go get it. You go download it and pay for it, or however you got to do it.
Oh yeah, well, streaming. Yeah, yeah, Yeah.
That was reminding me of a folk song with Alexander O'Neill. You know, he says that you know that one, I miss
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's a just you just slowed it up a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it
Yeah.
sounds like that to you, but just I'm just
Yeah, yeah. Well, it has all these little influences that
Mhm.
that those are the backdrop. Those songs are like the backdrop to our lives, man. So yeah,
Yeah, it's and then you're in my system a little bit, you know, do do do
yeah,
do, you know, and the girl
yeah,
singing it.
yeah,
I know,
yeah.
I know my R&B. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
you can't tell me nothing.
No,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
know the influence, and it looks like I got a little bit of Anita Baker, Regina
Right.
Bell, a little
Yeah,
bit in there.
yeah, yeah. It does.
Not so much,
You got
not
it.
so much. Whitney Houston. No, I think it's more so. You know how it just how it
Yeah,
flows like that. I like it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I really like it.
yeah,
So, I know you say you're producing somebody here, an artist, another artist, and he's
yeah.
doing Night Flight. So tell us about that. A little bit about that.
Yeah, this is an artist that as I mentioned before, we just released this about 3 weeks ago. His name is Jeremy
Three
Sean
weeks.
Hector. Yeah,
Okay.
Jeremy Sean Hector, and we have his new album coming out on November the 18th.
Okay.
But we've just released a single, and that single is on over 80 stations, which is what I'm just going to play for you now. And it's on XM satellite radio in high rotation. It's climbing the charts on Billboard. So I've done a previous album for him, which is on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. And one of the
Okay.
songs has over 4 million spins on
What?
fire. Yeah, so
So
he's
this same one, Night Flight, or is it one that you have?
this is the one that has 4 million spins is a song called Spray Bay, which is on his first album. This is the second album
Okay.
that's coming out. Yeah, and the second album has that's we're gonna drop it on the 18th of November, but we just dropped a single, a teaser, and we call it instant gratification song, and yeah, I mean I am very
Hmm.
proud of it because I mean it's really difficult to get on a lot of the platforms, like for example Spotify, and to get on a really strong playlist,
Yes, a lot
right?
of artists don't know how. Some of them don't know how to get that, do that, what they're supposed to do on it. A lot of people are learning, or they're doing it by themselves, and
Yeah,
it's a little bit pricey, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, the song has to resonate with an audience, and then they will um, sort of get get you into some of those editorial playlists. So he was able to get into an editorial playlist, which is one of the most challenging things to do. I mean, right now he's on XM in high rotation, which is another crazy thing to do. To get on those stations, I mean, they get hundreds of albums, hundreds of songs a day, and to get that song on there is challenging, and to now to get it on Billboard, which is sort of the Bible of the music industry, and
Hmm.
it's one of the highest um, moving tracks on Billboard, which for I mean for a new artist, for a Caribbean artist who's you know it's a big thing. So I'm really proud of that.
So did he come up with this song "Night Flight," the name, or you came up
Yeah,
with it,
yeah,
or is it
he came up with the name. He wrote the song. I
okay?
produced it, and
Okay.
he came up with the name, and and we have the marketing team behind it, pushing it. So yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of that, and I mean, he's a Caribbean boy, so which makes it even that more. Um,
And what
you
part of
know,
the Caribbean he comes from?
he's from Grenada as well too.
So that's close to your heart there.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I figure. Yeah.
All right, well, let's hear this song there. Let's hear this Night Flight, everybody. Night
Okay.
Flight for
Cool.
Jeremy Sean Hector.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. I really
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's really got a
Yeah.
good flair to it. That's really
Yeah.
got a good flair to it and a good flavor to it. And I really like it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody's singing it. It's just straight. It's just
Yeah. It's
straight
just straight.
instrument.
Yeah. I mean, in that smooth jazz or contemporary jazz, the criteria is that they want to make sure that the instrumentalist gets his the light shines on the instrumentalist, because we're always in
Okay.
the background. We're always supporting the singer, or right. So what they
Oh, so
try.
now the focus is on the person that's actually doing the
Yeah,
playing the
yeah,
music.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because so many times, people play with Mariah, people play with Whitney, but you don't know who those musicians are. It's
Mm-hmm.
like back in the day, like sometimes you'd know the musicians. Like Bruce Springsteen
Yes.
would have, right, and or somebody would have
But now
like
they don't
Timmy.
even mention that. They just mention
No,
the lead singer and
yeah,
that's
the
it.
lead singer, and then all the musicians who've contributed, they're just in the background. So with this um, genre, they said, listen, we will play singers, but we're totally concentrating on the musician. Make sure that all that work that you've done, all the practicing that you've done, all the people that you've played with, we want to bring that out. So when they have those festivals in the Caribbean, those jazz festivals, that's what it is. You go, yes,
Wow.
they have singers, but you'll hear a musician like Stanley Clark or like George Duke. Like George
Okay.
Duke did, right? He did all the Jeffrey Osborne and
I like George Stewart. It almost
right.
I like
Oh yeah, you're right. So now all these guys worked. Eric Benet, um, Howard Hewitt, like it's like George Duke, a lot of those things is those jazz guys. So, but you never hear about them. You hear about the singer.
Mhm.
So, this genre, what they try to do is to make sure that okay, we concentrate on showcasing the musician. You know what I mean?
All
Like
right.
you listen to a Michael Jackson record, you have no idea who played on it, but you know it's
Here it is. It's Eddie Bullen
yeah, yeah.
behind it. Okay, so what more can we expect from Eddie Bullen?
Well, I think more breaking new talent. Getting
Okay.
um, giving shining a light on young artists, songwriters, musician, instrumentalists, as well as vocalists. I always try to make sure I don't close the door behind me. I'll make sure that door is open, and so people can come through and find a always try to find some way that they can get promotion for their product, and I guess shepherd the product as well too. You know what I mean? So I'm always a believer in that. And I mean, I've been in business now for over 30 years, and that's kind of how I stayed in business, is to make sure that I don't leave the artist after the record is done. I just don't leave the artist to just kind of try and struggle. I try to make sure that at least I can do something to make sure that that happens.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, Eddie Bullen. I tell you, the time went so fast. It felt like we were only on for like 20 minutes,
I
but it's fine.
know.
But
Hard to believe.
but that's when you are interesting and you have a lot of stuff and you have a lot of information to tell people and to relate to people. So
Yeah.
we had a pleasure with your journey, and your journey's going to continue on. And of course, you're gonna have to come back because everybody's gonna want to know who you're working with now and what are you doing now. And you just come back. Of course, it won't be as long as this time. It didn't feel long; it felt quick. But
I know. Jeez, man.
I
Well,
know, but
yeah,
it'll
I
be
mean,
okay.
yeah, thanks. I mean, I appreciate you reaching out, and just reaching out to me. I mean, this is wonderful.
Yeah, and at least people will get to know who you are. Who I didn't even know you from Grenada, and I guess that's
Yeah.
gonna be a shock to a lot of people. The
Yeah,
island of
yeah,
spices, and
yeah,
so that's good. And it's good to see. This is what I do for Real Life Matters. We bring out so people can see what you do, because some people probably didn't even know you work with a lot of these people that you work with,
yeah,
because you're just so humble. But you're big, but you're humble, but you're just reserved, and you just kind of like you just go with the flow. And you know what you're doing because you're focusing on your music.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for
So,
having me.
all right, no problem, Eddie. So everybody, so I thank all the viewers tonight and for watching and tuning in with Eddie Bullen. The music is in his blood. So everybody, so good night. So bye for now.
Bye. Take care.